Hey there! I've been reading a lot about climate change lately, and it's honestly quite concerning. The impact on our planet is becoming more evident each day.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. The rise in global temperatures, melting ice caps, and extreme weather events are all clear signs that something needs to change.
And it's not just about the environment, it's about the social and economic consequences too. Vulnerable communities are hit the hardest, and there's a real need for global cooperation to address these issues.
Definitely, the disparity in how different regions contribute to climate change and how they're affected by it is a huge challenge. The concept of climate justice is gaining momentum, emphasizing the need for equity in addressing the crisis.
Right, and it's not just about reducing carbon emissions anymore. We need to transition to renewable energy sources, reevaluate our consumption patterns, and promote sustainable practices across industries.
Agreed. The move towards renewable energy is crucial, but it's also a complex process involving policy changes, technological advancements, and public support. Governments and businesses play a pivotal role here.
Speaking of governments, international agreements like the Paris Agreement are steps in the right direction. However, there's still criticism about their effectiveness and the lack of binding commitments.
True, the Paris Agreement is a starting point, but we need stronger commitments and accountability from all nations. The recent UN climate change conferences have shed light on this issue, pushing for more urgent action.
It's frustrating to see climate change denial still persisting in some circles. The overwhelming scientific consensus makes it clear that human activities are driving the changes we're witnessing.
Agreed, the science is solid, and the impacts are tangible. Overcoming misinformation and fostering climate literacy are essential to build public support for the necessary changes.
Education and awareness are key. The younger generation is particularly passionate about climate change, as they'll be the ones facing the most severe consequences if we don't act now.
Absolutely, the youth-led climate movements are inspiring. Their activism is putting pressure on leaders to take more decisive action. It's heartening to see that grassroots efforts are driving change.
It's also interesting to consider the role of technology. Innovations like carbon capture and geoengineering have the potential to mitigate the effects of climate change, but they also come with ethical and environmental concerns.
Definitely a double-edged sword. While technology can offer solutions, we have to ensure that these solutions don't create more problems in the long run. Sustainable innovation should be at the forefront.
Agreed, we need a holistic approach that takes into account not only environmental factors but also social, economic, and ethical considerations. It's a complex challenge that requires a multidisciplinary effort.
Climate change is undoubtedly one of the defining issues of our time. Addressing it requires collaboration on a global scale, involving governments, businesses, communities, and individuals alike.
And the urgency is only increasing. The longer we delay action, the more difficult and expensive it will become to mitigate the worst effects. It's time for everyone to step up and make a difference.
Absolutely, we can't afford to ignore this issue any longer. Let's hope that collective efforts and a renewed commitment to sustainable living can help steer us towards a more positive future.
You're right, there's so much at stake. I'm encouraged by the growing emphasis on circular economies and reducing waste. It's crucial to rethink how we produce and consume goods.
Absolutely, the concept of a circular economy, where resources are used efficiently and waste is minimized, is a great step forward. It aligns with the idea of sustainability in all aspects of life.
And it's not just about individual actions. Businesses have a significant role to play. Companies that prioritize sustainability and integrate it into their strategies can drive positive change at a larger scale.
Indeed, businesses have both the power and responsibility to innovate and adopt greener practices. Consumers' preferences are also shifting towards eco-friendly products, which can influence companies' choices.
That's true. Consumer behavior plays a big role. When people demand sustainable products and services, companies respond by adapting their offerings, which can create a ripple effect through supply chains.
On the policy front, there's a lot of discussion about carbon pricing and regulations to incentivize emissions reductions. Some argue that putting a price on carbon can drive investment in cleaner technologies.
Carbon pricing can indeed be a powerful tool to internalize the costs of carbon emissions. However, it needs to be implemented carefully to avoid disproportionately impacting vulnerable communities.
That's a valid concern. We need policies that are not only effective in reducing emissions but also equitable and considerate of social justice implications.
Absolutely. Climate migration is another issue that's gaining attention. As some areas become uninhabitable due to rising sea levels and extreme weather, we need strategies to support displaced communities.
It's a complex humanitarian challenge. Climate refugees could potentially reshape geopolitics and raise questions about border policies and international cooperation.
Right, and that ties into the broader issue of global governance. Climate change requires a coordinated effort among nations, and we need to strengthen institutions to ensure effective collaboration.
The United Nations and other international bodies have a role to play, but we've seen challenges in reaching consensus among countries with varying interests and levels of development.
It's a delicate balance between economic growth and environmental preservation. Some argue that sustainable development is possible, where growth doesn't come at the cost of the planet.
Sustainable development is definitely a viable approach. By integrating environmental, social, and economic goals, we can ensure that progress benefits both people and the planet.
I'm glad there's a growing recognition that we're all interconnected. Climate change doesn't respect borders or ideologies. It's a shared challenge that requires a united response.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the conversations we're having now and the actions we take today will determine the kind of world we leave for future generations. Let's keep pushing for positive change.
Agreed. It's a long journey ahead, but the more we engage, learn, and collaborate, the better our chances of creating a sustainable and resilient future. Let's be a part of that change.